It's monthly Mormon Mondays. It's time for the secret handshake. Tune in and reach through the veil. It's time for monthly Mormon Monday.
Welcome to Weekly Wiccan Wednesday. Heidi has officially converted to Wiccan, right, over the weekend. And
I
you
don't
said,
know.
surprisingly, there's less black magic in Wiccan than there was in Mormonism growing up.
Probably, but I don't like the naked part. I don't want to be naked. That I don't know if I
Well,
can
that's why
do
they always
Wiccan.
grow all that extra hair. If you ever see the horror movies with like the Wiccan witches in the forest, there's always just enough hair to
They
like
got
cover their weird
tons.
bodies.
Yeah, I don't have enough hair for that, and my hair doesn't like to grow, so it's never gonna cover all the things. But it did sound good.
When the craft came out, was there an uproar in the Mormon community? Was there like a taboo interest, or did it just completely fly beyond the radar?
No, it was very satanic, panicky. You can't watch that. Don't do that. Don't look at those things and just watch Disney, which is also, I mean, that's, you decipher things hysterical. So yeah.
Well,
Nothing's
because Disney does it with removing some of the edges, and that's kind of what Mormonism does. They take occultism and they soften the edges a little bit, at least up until the actual temple date, right? And then the temple date,
right.
you get to see the edges, and then they put the edges away again.
Right. You can't have it all is basically what the situation is. They have to make it a little, cookie cutter. It's very that. Yeah.
So, speaking of edges, I found this website that I think you're probably familiar with if you're a Mormon or ex-Mormon. It's Mormoner.
Yes.
Make Mormonism peculiar again. Is this a pro or an anti-Mormon website? Is it neutral? I can't be together.
Just like Jacob Isbell, there are different things in every realm, right, of Mormonism, and mainstream wise, like probably not in line, but so many people have gone backward, like you often say, oh, but what about Joseph Smith? What would he have done? Or what would this have been like with him? It would have been a totally different church. So I do think some people genuinely are trying to take this back to more of a magical order,
Could you call that like Orthodox Mormonism? As if you like are stuck with Joseph Smith's teachings? Is there a certain denomination?
Gnostic. I would say Gnostic Mormonism is much more, or Kabbalah Mormonism. Like, Joseph was linked in, and people don't quite understand everything he's always saying. That is for certain. But I can look at it with eyes that see things and definitely see that he was, very aligned with Templar Gnostic teachings. Absolutely. And that's, the one reason why I think that that's right. But I mean, of course, we can never be 100% sure, is that every time I bring up something like that, it gets hella pushed back. And even other people like Dan Vogel, he speaks out, but then he's like, but also never ever Martinism. It's not that. And I'm like, okay.
I've talked to a couple proud Martinists that were like, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing ever.
But like, I mean, obviously they're just trying to keep you from that. Like anytime somebody is like, it's absolutely not that, that makes me go, maybe I should look at that.
Very, very reactionary. And that's right. So actually that's a perfect lead in, because on this Mormonar site at the very top, the main link, it literally says hard questions. And I was like, this actually sounds kind of cool. What are like the hardest questions of all Mormonism? And I was just scrolling through and we've talked about almost a good portion of these, maybe not all of them. Adam God theory, blood atonement, kolob, polygamy. We've kind of, so as I was scrolling down at the very bottom of the list under White Horse Prophecy, which we're going to talk about in some other episode too, I think. But it's this like
Absolutely.
Zelph the Lamanite, and
The
I've
White
also heard
Lamanite.
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they kind of softened the edge on even this one. So correct me if I'm wrong. White Lamanite means like a white Native American.
Well, that is what I would say it is, but like, you know, we've had some weird discussions, and I've gone down some little rabbit trails of that. And I would love to say that I know for sure, but I don't, because now they're trying to make it like allegorical. Like, no, no, no. They were just meaning blah, blah, blah. So they're saying the Lamanite word is anyone that's a non-believer, is what I've been looking through. Now, this is just people trying to also say this isn't a crazy idea, but like, who knows what he was thinking, right?
So maybe I'm in the latter camp of the Latter-day Saints criticism here, but like it seems to me complete bumpkin from the outside looking in that they came across some bones and Joseph Smith was just like, "Oh my god, I'm having a vision. This was a great warrior and this was his name and this was like his favorite color, and you know, he liked puppies," and like starts doing almost like age regression on him where he's like fortune telling this guy's life. Like he's tapping back into the past. And this isn't something that
Well,
I'm familiar with.
he didn't just find the bones. I mean, there's 6 accounts at least. I've got documented 6. Out of the 6 accounts, I find this one most plausible is they dug up the mound and actually dug him up and took the bones with them. And then they were like with them in a close proximity. And then this came to him. So maybe he was doing some fun Solomonic shit.
An- well, I guess maybe to add some credibility to some weird Solomonic shit is that after this account, the bones were unaccounted for forever. That
Right.
basically they took the bones out, they laid them out on a board, they kind of like pieced them together, dinosaur style a little bit, and then he has this vision, and then 100 years or so lapse, and no one really mentions it again. No one even goes back to this mound until the 1970s. And by the time this story comes back out again, everyone's like, yeah, no one knows what happened to the actual bones. And if this is such an important relic that Joseph Smith like uncovered these bones, found them in a mound, and was like, this is this great warrior that I've just channeled, wouldn't that make these like sort of sacred objects for like for Joseph Smith personally, and maybe Mormonism in general? But instead they just disappear. I mean, my first thought is someone turned those things into powder or into canes, and there's like some Mormons walking around with like Lamanite bone cane somewhere. No,
I mean, we do know what they did with Joseph Smith and his brother and the coffin canes and the Order of the Black Sticks. I don't know if I've talked to you about that, but yes. So we know that they have, you know, a good history of doing such things. So maybe you're right. Who knows?
so this was one of the illustrations that comes up the most, I think, if you were to look at old accounts of this Zelph ancient warrior, the White Lamanite, and this one's from an 1853 issue of Harper's Monthly Magazine. So this is close to contemporary with when this actually happens. So their description is that Joseph Smith finds Zelph, and he attributes this to the skeleton found during Zion's camp in a burial mound, and that there's multiple accounts, but there's 2 with Joseph having a vision, and that this vision is what tells him that it's basically Zelph, and he was this white Lamanite warrior who basically gets killed in battle. He even knows exactly how the guy dies. And this, from what I can tell, none of this is based on forensics. No one's looking at the bones and seeing marks. This is just Joseph Smith saying it's all coming to me now, and he has this vision about exactly who these. Are there any other accounts when he came across bones and was able to tell whose bones they were and like the person's whole life story? Or is Zelph like the only thing?
I wished I knew that actual answer, but I know that, you know, he was a seer He was the prophet, seer, and revelator. So I don't know if he's made other accounts, like, I mean, without being told, like Moroni told him his history. So that's out. I mean, he supposedly told him. I'm not sure about other people that were past if they had, but he is, quote unquote, a seer, prophet, seer, and revelator. So, it's not completely out of the realm for
So
him.
in the 1970s, when they went back and they revisited this mound, it was called Naples Russell Mound number 9, I think. When they go back and they investigate this, they do some kind of Rockefeller carbon dating. So however much credit you want to give carbon dating, but they essentially dated these bones to like 50 AD, maybe 100 AD at the oldest. So this was definitely like if Joseph Smith is channeling a warrior's battle in his life, like this dude can go back over 1,500 years when he's doing his channeling. So that would be pretty remarkable.
I mean, yeah, he's dialed in, if so. That is for sure. I mean, I saw that it was like between 50 BC and 250 AD, right? And this is when they excavated in the 80s and 70s, but they were also like trying really hard. We have to remember, like, what is the reasoning why they're doing this? They're trying really hard to link this so that they can prove the Book of Mormon and everything that's going on here in America. So, which they quit doing eventually. So,
Well, I think this
yeah.
might be one of the struggles of being a prophet, whether it's true or not, but that now all of a sudden there's this pressure of like, when are you gonna do some prophet stuff, huh, Joseph? When's the next time you can do something cool? And it's like, guys, like I wrote my last album, it was a hit. Let me just kind of sit on this for a while. But they would keep pushing, and you can see the Catholic Church going through this too, where like the Vatican's like, oh crap, some web designer died. We better come up with a few miracles and make ourselves a saint. Otherwise, people are gonna forget that like we can do that, So at least every like 15, 20 years, it seems, everyone's overdue for another saint or a prophet.
Well, and whatever, they have a catch 22 in place. I don't know if it came before Joseph or because of what you're saying right there, but they like to do this. Now, Heidi, that was when he was only a man. I mean, he wasn't talking about that as the prophet that day, because maybe he was off that day, or maybe it wasn't the prophet-y time. And so they'll do this thing like the prophet actually is the prophet that talks to God directly, and everything he says is canon, except when he's not the prophet.
Well, he
So
didn't have his Wheaties that morning.
right. Yeah. And then they put it in the Journal of Discourses and want it to go away. Yeah.
He didn't have his
So
iron
many.
fortified Dr. Abram Hoffer Scottish Rite cereal that one particular morning.
That's
And
right.
this is another funny thing I noticed, at least on the Mormon R website, which is why I was asking you, is it pro? Is it like anti? Is it neutral? Because how reliable is the story about Zelph? Now, when I read this question, I'm thinking, how reliable is it that Joseph Smith knew all this stuff that he was kind of making up on the spot? But every time that this question comes up, it's like, oh no, it's a reliable story. He did find those bones. He did make these predictions. But so I think it's kind of two things. One is that some of it is maybe self-evident that he just made up all this stuff about this white Lamanite warrior, so that no one really even acknowledges it because it would be silly to. And then if you go on like Wikipedia or something, and I'll pull up that article a little bit later too, but they kind of mention that it's a highly debated thing. So I don't know if Mormons have like a lot of donations going to Wikipedia where they're like, let's keep this kind of smooth here. Just say that it's debated. Don't remind everyone that he just made up like a crazy story on the spot and then no one ever told it again for 100 years.
Well, and the problem with Joseph is Joseph is, clairvoyant when he wants to be. He's also really enigmatic. He's trying to, pump up these people. I mean, it's hard to know. I've heard some other weird ways they're going to present this. Like I said, they went from Lamanite, as in, the Lamanites and Nephites were Native Americans and they were here, and that's what they were too. A Lamanite is now anybody that's a non-believer. Oh, well, that's new. I didn't know that one, but okay.
So it originally started as essentially Native Americans, and then it evolved into like pagans.
And they made a hymn about this. There's like photos. I mean, have you seen the photo where he's holding his spear and his chest plate, and he's yeah, I mean, they really leaned into this before DNA. Because because then when DNA comes out, right, they're like, shush it up. Shh. There was actually a guy that got in trouble because he was not shushing it up, and I can't remember his name right now, but he was a scientist, and he was going to prove, by golly, that the Book of Mormon was true by DNA, and the church was like, no, you're not. You're going to get excommunicated is what we're going to do.
Like,
and so
you don't want to open this can of worms.
Don't open it. Yeah. So it was a whole situation, and pretty much the guy left the church over it. So actually, I don't know if he might have been excommunicated over it. So yeah, that's what they do.
Tell me this, because I'm not sure I fully understand this. If a Lamanite is a non-believer, then is Zelph the White Lamanite, is he kind of like a bad guy? Because it almost seems that any writings of him, he's been elevated to some kind of like a action hero within Mormon lore. But ultimately, he's a non-believer. So is this Mormons kind of worshiping or giving credit to a non-believer?
But if he's this non-believer, here's the funny part, right? Like, they show him as a Lamanite. Like, when you pull up the photo, okay, there is a picture of him dressed like a Native American. So clearly they were actually meaning
who's dressed up like this?
Oh, Zelph. Yeah, he's got. Yeah, you got to pull up the picture. So they clearly.
Oh, you mean the artwork of him?
The artwork for Zelph before the controversy with DNA and whatnot was yes, this is the one. So clearly,
he doesn't look that way.
Yeah, no, he's not. And so, like, I'm like, where are you going with this? And it's confusing. And basically, as a Mormon, I will tell you, and I do always say Mormon because when I was young, that's what we were. We were Mormons. LDS came later, whatever. I don't care. When I was a kid, we were Mormons, and that's what we said. But this was not talked about. Like, it was very hidden under the radar. It was a hymn. There's a hymn about Zelph. There's maybe this picture, but there was a lot of other, Native American pictures.
There was like a Roman one too. Like this one I used for our thumbnail. I made like a better version of it. I mean, this dude doesn't look anything like a Native American. Now we're talking almost like a centurion. He's like a Roman soldier.
So is he the white Lamanite? Like, oh my gosh, where does it go?
Yeah. The other dude looks like John Yellowcorn or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, I wished I could know what exactly he meant. I do know this. There's no way he knew that from the bones, like genetic wise, we'll say. It's only clairvoyance that would get him wherever he's trying to go with this. But it's something that's really broke a lot of shelves for Mormon people, which means it was kind of the last straw. This was it. Like, no, you are crazy, and this is crazy. And so now they're going backward. And I've heard a lot of different things like, no, Zelph really means self. And he's like this, Joseph Smith was so smart. He was the early Carl Jung. And so he was so smart that, he was trying to tell you guys that this is how you can correlate this, and this is the spin they're giving it now, that this is not historical. But clearly we know they were trying to prove this historically by digging it up, excavating it, doing samples, all this stuff. So I think that was a quick turn.
To be fair, I bet you Carl Jung did read Joseph Smith and was familiar with him.
He absolutely did, because I have read his 7 Sermons to the Dead 100%. There's no way he didn't read that book. So
I've got here's one of the official Mormon church stories on Zelph. This is the statement that says this comes from various Ensign. I assume that's like the magazine. Ensign's a magazine.
It's the magazine that you get when you're LDS or Mormon.
Yeah. So according to the official LDS magazine Ensign, this is one of the stories of Zelph. 1 mile south of Valley City on the bluffs of the Illinois River is the storied Zelph Mound, now on private property, so tourism is not encouraged. Here on June 3rd, Joseph and a few others climbed the bluffs, dug into a mound, unearthing a skeleton. Joseph is reported to have identified the remains as those of Zelph, a righteous Lamanite warrior killed in battle. About half a mile north of Zelph Mound, back towards Valley City, is a rough road cutting west through the bluffs. This is Church Hollow Road, the only original portion of the trail left on the entire Zion Camp route. And after 1.5 miles, the road improves, coming out in the prairie leading the Pittsfield. So even here, it's a righteous Lamanite warrior killed in battle, and the Lamanites were fighting the Nephites, and the Nephites were, I don't know, early Mormons that turned bad, or like early Jews that turned bad. So is the
flip it? Nephi's the good, Lamanite is not as good.
So why is why do they literally describe him as a righteous Lamanite warrior who is killing great grandpappy Mormon?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird, right? Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nephi was born of goodly parents, and Nephi is the one you want to be like. That's always been. And so, I don't know if they're trying to say, okay, well, this one guy was good even though he was doing bad things. Like I'm not really sure if Joseph had too much to drink that night. I don't know. Because he could drink beer.
Him though, but everyone after him has been perpetuating that's this righteous warrior.
And funny enough, honestly, like this wasn't even put out until after Joseph was dead. I don't know if you read that, but they kind of tried to take it back. They did take backsies. Like it was like, maybe we don't want to put that out, and then it got put out anyways after he was passed. So I just don't know. It wasn't printed until 1846 after Joseph's death in Times and Seasons. So yeah, it makes you wonder, like, who's manipulating what, where, how. So
the other historical account, because there was two main ones that backed up the Zelph story. This one came from Reuben McBride, and his journal from this time said his name was Zelph, a warrior under the prophet Onondaga. I'm probably butchering these names. Do you know is that right?
Prophet Onondaga is, I think, is what they call it.
Onondaga, Zelph, a white Lamanite. He also wrote that an arrow was found in his ribs, which he said supposed occasioned his death. Zelph was known from the Atlantic to the Rocky Mountains. And then it says, soon after Joseph had a vision, and the Lord showed him that this man was once a mighty prophet among many other things concerning his dead, who had fallen no doubt in great battles. And that Zelph was a white Lamanite who fought for the people of Onondaga for freedom. Onondaga is a name in a county in New York State, as well as the name of a tribe of the Iroquois Confederacy that occupied the area. So he's actually referencing somewhat contemporary Iroquois names that he probably heard. But again, these bones were literally dated to like 50 AD or 100 AD, which in my mind probably predates any concept of like an Iroquois sort of civilization. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this.
No, I'm definitely not an expert on the bones and all that stuff. But it is funny that we use this word, Onondaga, when we know Oneida is right there. We know there's connections to Dartmouth, and with Oneida and Samson Occam, and it just makes you wonder, like, were you stretching that story just a little bit? Like, whatever. A lot of people have had contention around this story, which is why I think they're trying to say, oh, this was all like just a tale. This is just a parable, if you will. Like, oh no, it wasn't supposed to be true. But then you've like took his body and dug him up out of a mound, so to talk with him, and where did you chuck the bones, and what exactly happened there? So with knowing that Skull and Bones goes back to some Mormon ties. Like, I don't know what they're doing there. And this is far older than that, but the practices of magic are as well. So
Here's another really interesting part of this, I think. So those two accounts of Zelph, this Lamanite warrior that they find, Joseph Smith doesn't actually write about this himself at all. It's only written about by these other two guys that were with him, but they do have a journal entry or a letter that he wrote Emma a day after this apparently was supposed to have happened. But he doesn't mention finding a warrior skeleton. So it made a big enough impact to two other guys, and that it is now part of Mormon magazines that get mailed out to people. But even Joseph Smith didn't write this thing down.
look, they were pretty excited about this because they really need one piece of evidence, because, the plates disappeared, the bones disappeared, they really would love to have that. And I think that's where they were pushing for, but they didn't realize what was coming, right? They didn't realize DNA and stuff was going to happen.
Oops.
Oopsie.
Well, I guess it was smart to do whatever they did with it, pulverize it or turn it into magic potions. But it was smart to not just put it in a museum so that it could be DNA tested later on.
Even the things they did put in museums, I don't know if you know this, but Joseph Smith had quite a few mummies, and they were supposedly put into a museum, but there was a fire. Don't worry, there was a fire. There's always a
cow
fire.
kicked over a lantern, I assume.
Once again, yes, exactly.
Damn
cows. So yeah, it's definitely, yeah. And somebody's even mentioning Oneida. Oh, it's Dawn. Hey, Dawn. Yeah. So definitely when we talk about that, Oneida goes back to this whole thing with Samson Occam. He isn't from there, but he ends up living there after the whole Dartmouth thing. And so these people are all very familiar with one another and each other's stories and all of it. So
I would love to talk about Oneida more. Oneida is a fascinating cult because I think that I first found out about People's Temple, Jim Jones, and yeah, it's weird that they all like moved to another country and like off themselves. But what was even weirder is before that happened, he had these weird sessions where the entire congregation, like him leading it, but he would get the rest of the members to sort of do these like public divorces and marriages where he would just be like, you over there and you over there, come up here. Like, do you guys know each other? No? Well, you're married now. I'm dissolving your existing marriages. Like, you two would make great offspring. And I found out that Oneida did that way before, like 100 years before Jim Jones did it. The Oneida would all get together and they would just like pair people up however they thought. It was kind of like an opt-in eugenics program where they collectively they're like, we need someone a little bit taller to get stuff off the top shelves. So they just find the two tall people and they're like, have at it. Like, we don't care if you like each other or not. This is what the community needs. And that's such a fascinating dynamic.
It really is, because it continues into the Kingstons to this day, where we know, they believe they have the divine right to rule blood. And with that, they will match up people that are compatible genetically. They actually test their genetics because they are like brothers and sisters and aunts and cousins. And now they hire a geneticist and they're like, you two right there, you two get married. You can't marry that brother. You got to marry your second brother over there. So,
and the Oneida continued into the early 20th century, I think, because in like the 60s and the 70s, people started going over there and trying to go through the records, and they realized this and they're like, get rid of the records. So now a lot of people that are trying to trace their genealogy, just figure out if they've got like a medical condition in their family, can't find it because it's all been like they knew it was taboo even at the time. So there's really no records for a lot of them.
Yeah, no, and let's remember who runs the genealogy sites. So whatever, they can make it whatever they want to make it, right? And people often say, well, Joseph Smith had to have had other kids or this or that. Well, the more I learn, the more I think he knew some things. So probably not.
All right,
Yeah.
here's another interesting one I found on the X. Oh no, this is the current Mormon. There was an ex-Mormon thread, and there's also a current Mormon thread. So the Mormon thread on Reddit, this one names him Zelph the White Lamanite, destroyer of apologists, and it basically says the story of Zelph the White Lamanite disproves the foundational assumptions many apologists have relied on with relation to the existence and nature of Nephites and Lamanites as people. So that this actually becomes the like one of the things that gets cited as proof that this actually, like, the whole Lamanite and Nephite thing even existed, because is correct me if I'm wrong here, Zelph is an extension of that. So if Zelph is all made up, then is the whole Lamanite and Nephite just all made up? Is this just like a weird Western that Joseph Smith was creating in his mind?
Well, the church sure hopes not, because if that comes crashing down, everything comes crashing down.
Why?
Because
Why does anyone care about that though? It doesn't seem like anyone really would. Just say the same way that it's like
ugh.
no one cares that they're Masonic symbols that are in the magic underwear. No one really cares about some of the original reasons and like the early treasure hunts and stuff, right?
Well, the problem with that is the whole Book of Mormon is the written story of those people here in America. So if they don't exist, we're gonna. And I think that's really the crux of it all. Is they're like, cut it out. Like, stop with your, digging. Stop with the DNA. We're going to fix it because you messed it up. We got to go make a new genealogy line to nowhere. Like, they can't have that fall. Like, if Joseph isn't right and if Joseph isn't true with his whole original Moroni story in the Book of Mormon, then everything falls, no matter what people want to believe.
But also the terms of Nephite and Lamanite, these do not exist outside the Mormon bubble, right? You're not going to go
Right.
to a museum, or you're not going to go to a school and they're going to teach you about this. Like, you're only going to hear these names and know about these peoples inside of Mormonism.
Correct, because it's in the Book of Mormon only. And so, that is the story of Lehi. Lehi leaves that land and comes here to America, and these are his kids, is Nephi and Laman and Lemuel. And so, that's the story. That's like their
Okay.
story.
So
Yeah.
it's almost like if you have been studying the Bible your whole life and then you find out like Jews never actually existed.
Or Paul was you've heard probably the back and forth about, did Paul really have anything to do with this, or was this like just in Paul's head in the prison, right? Like, people go back and forth on that. It's kind of like that. Like, if it wasn't real, then we got problems. So it cannot be, because and the problem is the Roman Catholics still have a ton of archaeological evidence, whereas the Mormons are like, everything needed to go back to the angels. We don't know. And so it gets, that's hard.
Do you think Joseph Smith knew early on, he's like, I got to get rid of these bones. Like, I can't let anyone else get their hands on these things now that
Oh
I've made up
boy.
this story.
Well, I don't know if this was before or after the Kinderhook plates, but if it was after, then it would make a lot of sense. I'll have to Google that, because he did learn some lessons from that one. So let's check that
I
out while
feel
we're
like we
chatting.
are learning, we're getting like a crash course on how to start a religion successfully. And it does seem that one of those things is that as soon as you discover whatever sacred object that inspires a religion, you have to lose or destroy it immediately. And if you don't do that, then it's just not interesting enough. Like, all these stories are more interesting when the thing that founded the religion is immediately lost. That seems to be a very common archetype.
So it wasn't because of that. The Kinderhook plates are after. So yeah, I don't know what part of it is like prompting him to, like you said, get rid of it, or is it just good old fashioned necromancy? And did they use them for something? Did they keep those bones? Did they hide those bones? Do the bones exist underneath the temple today in all these weird vaults that they have? I have no clue,
I think there's a little bit of Mormon Fight Club rules going on with all this old stuff. They find a skeleton, and it's like you're allowed to write up until we find it, and then you're not allowed to write anything that comes after that.
Well, and it all depends on if it helps the agenda. So if it's not going to help the agenda, hurry and hide that or change it, right? We saw that with the salamander story. Like it was changed. The toad was changed, and now nobody believes it ever even happened. So,
that's another, just like on that previous site where it says, is this story true? And it's like, well, actually, yeah, because they did do this and they did find it. It's like, well, that's not necessarily the question. The same thing happens with the newt and the toad or whatever, right? Where it's like, it was never a toad.
And well, it was never they just want to go into salamander.
It was never a salamander. It was a toad that knocked his ass out.
Yeah. And so, and ultimately, like they said, I mean, in the account, it's this toad, something like a toad, right, became a man. But we know these tales go back far older than that. This is like old, Templar storybook time. Like, let's be real. And so when we look at that, what did he know that he's putting into things versus what was really occurring is interesting, let alone, he's in a magical world. I don't care what anybody says. He's practicing Solomonic magic, whether he's a Martinist or not. That's what he's doing. He's not just sitting learning. He's practicing. So,
well, if Aleister Crowley is reading your stuff years later and thinking like, this guy's onto something, I guess I would take his word. I wouldn't believe him on a lot of things, but I would believe him on that. If he's like, this Joseph Smith guy is really occult.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to me that whenever they want to flip something a little tiny bit, they'll be like, oh, but and I'm not saying that, the bombings didn't happen with the salamander story or any of that. I'm just saying they use that to their advantage, or they were trying to change it purposely. I don't know, but like they are very good at this.
Is there any chance at all that it was legitimately just a hoax and someone just siphoned money out of the Mormon church and they were just dumb? That it was basically just like a Mr. Magoo Keystone Cop situation?
I don't know, because it seems like that with the frog salamander story until you know about the Comte de Gabalis, right? And once you know about that, you're like, it doesn't seem so stupid now. So maybe this is right back to that. Is he overly learned and keeping back for the uninitiated, or is he an idiot? Right?
Joseph Smith was a Freemason and borrowed heavily from the crowd. I'd say borrowed is a light word there. Like, if anything, he kind of was like remix, and then he just made his own version of it with like white weird underpants and stuff.
Exactly. He borrowed from a couple things, right?
Well, we did a couple episodes ago where we went through like all the illustrations of the entire endowment ritual, right? It's what's called. And like, it used to be really wild. Like that. This was back when they used to put grandma into like a tub naked in front of like a room full of dudes, right?
I think it was still girls then, but yeah, same. Yeah. Still naked in the bathtub of oil. Yes.
Does that make it any better that it's just a bunch of old ladies there?
Well, I mean,
I guess depends. A little bit. I guess.
I mean, it depends on what you're going for, but at the same time, like, we know these practices, like, we know he's a master mason. We know he was risen to a master mason overnight, which doesn't normally happen. We know he's practicing Solomonic magic from all of the relics and all of this stuff. We know he's summoning because he's using the Jupiter talisman, which people will say, okay, that's because people were cursing him. No, that's not what it says. Read the book. It says it protected those who invoke. So we know he's invoking. And, whether that works or not, I don't know, because I've never invoked. I'm good where I'm at. But we know that he knew some stuff enough to catch other people's attention. And so do I think that he possibly could have kept these and kept them from, like, for other things dealing with necromancy? You bet I do. Do I think they have the box of Zelph somewhere in the temple? Probably.
The other thing with the Joseph Smith becoming like an overnight Mason, I learned recently that in Prince Hall Masonry, they have a very specific practice, which I don't think exists in any other form of Masonry, but it's called on-site degrees. And basically, you can just show up and they're like, bam, you're a Master Mason. And you don't have to do any studying. You don't have to go through the movements. And one of the examples is actually Joe Biden. That Joe
Oh
Biden
boy.
went to a Prince Hall Mason ceremony. And I don't, if you're asking me, which you aren't, but if you were asking me, I don't think that he had any idea what was going on. He thought he was doing a meet and greet photo op kind of thing, but he shows up and they're like, you're now a Master Mason. So technically on the books, Joe Biden got like one-shotted as a Mason. And I didn't even know that existed until recently, but apparently that goes back. Wow. And there's lots of contention within the different Masonic like brotherhoods that like a lot of people are not happy that you could just be one-shotted and turn into a Mason like that. So
I mean, I would be upset if I spent a ton of time memorizing and going through all the degrees. Yeah, that would piss me off, honestly. Like, I mean, I don't know, that would irritate me to like think, oh, I had to do all this other stuff and you just come in and you're a black belt now. Like, what? No. I mean, that would make me mad, but whatever.
I guess.
I don't know. I mean, you know,
what if Joe Biden was just like the perfect Mason? They showed up and it was like, damn, this guy knows everything. They were like, bam, Mason on the spot.
Well, I mean, I guess so, but I don't think they do. I don't think you could know that in the course of what a dinner. Like, what are we judging over? Like, is there questions? Like, I would think there would be a test or something. There should be some kind of.
So there is a test, but the test doesn't take very long. It's actually a pretty quick test. I don't know if I can say any more without losing my life.
For all of them, you know what I mean? For every, you think he could do all of them for all the degrees?
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, absolutely. You could do it all in an afternoon if you knew what you're doing.
Maybe then. I don't know. I'd still be irritated if that was me, but that's just me. I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, if he has the knowledge, but I mean, we're using
again. This was a like recent Joe Biden. This was not a early young Joe Biden. This was falling off a bike. I like chocolate chip.
Poopy pants. This is poopy pants Biden. Okay. Well, that's why he went to that particular thing, because he couldn't have passed the rest of them. We all know that.
Yeah, I still don't think he even realized what was happening. He's like,
probably not. Yeah. He's like, okay, yeah. What'd you say? Is it lunch? Is lunch? Okay, it's lunch. Good. But to your point about skipping things, I wanted to mention. So somebody told me that they changed the temple ceremony. So I guess they don't even care about making any more special people. They must have their 144,000 because now they've cut the temple ceremony down to an hour and you don't have to memorize anything. And they put it on big cue cards and you just go through the motions. Yeah, that's what's happening now.
Interesting. Actually, yeah, I just found a Reddit article on this one. Endowment ceremony has been shortened by another 30 minutes.
Well, they do not care about the uninitiated any further. Their porch masons are porchy enough, and they're like, that's all you need to know. You go sit down. That will be good enough cover for when we come and do the real thing on Thursday. So go sit down, Gina. I
like the description here, which is clearly sarcastic. The temples are so overbooked, they have to shorten the endowment to meet the extraordinary demand. Church officials attribute high demand to ex-Mormons who are returning in droves.
There it is. Apparently, they're returning in droves.
Does the church really say doctrine never changes?
I hope not, because it's changed a bajillion times. I mean, really.
To me, that's what makes Mormonism appealing, is that they do change so often, like every year.
They change a lot. They change everything all the time, including even their buildings, everything. Everything gets changed constantly. I don't know why they would say that, but I'm sure it's to make the uninitiated feel better, because they're like, no, we have the same thing as you, and they're all over there laughing with their second anointing. Like, okay, yeah, no, definitely not.
So here's some comments from the ex-Mormon subreddit that I had found even earlier on this one. So this is a great question. Zelph the White Lamanite, wouldn't that make him a Nephite? That's a great freaking question. Wouldn't a white Lamanite be a Nephite, or is it like a Nephite that left the Nephites and then became a Lamanite?
Oh man, whoa. I mean, maybe he just got more white and delightsome
Well, it says
because
no, his skin got lighter because he became righteous. So
right, that is the truth. They do
you just
believe
wake up
that.
one morning and you're white because you're righteous now.
Well, so says Steiner. So says Steiner. But I mean, I thought you're supposed to die and reincarnate for that. But maybe they're skipping a little bit. Who knows?
So I don't know. I think it's interesting. Here it says that the carbon dating of the actual Onondaga, I'm butchering all these names, date close to 1200 AD. So again, if the bones that Joseph Smith were finding were like 1,000 years earlier than the actual people that he was using the names from. So
Well, I mean, a lot of these people, like when you look at some of the mound questions, the mounds were like well known to all of these people. They weren't. I mean, they've labeled them now. Like Dr. Gregory Little does a lot on this, and I did a show with them, and I'm just saying, like, I think the reason why the church had to pull back is because of people like that are like, no, this is this tribe, you crazy loon. Like, and this goes with this, and that doesn't work. And so I think they had to quickly recalibrate and put it under the bed. It's the ugly doll that you want to keep because it was your grandma's. And so, but you don't want to put it out. It's got to be hidden.
I have never heard of the Ninth Circle, or there was like a
I have heard of the Ninth
1930s like
Circle, yes.
sci-fi story, I think, if that's what we're talking about.
No, the Ninth Circle is circulating right now, and some popular YouTubers are really getting into that from the recent tragedy that has been out and about that I don't want to get nuked for. So, but yeah, I have seen the stuff about the Ninth Circle. There's a lot of stuff about Trump and whatnot in there, and it's a whole thing. So, yeah.
So I actually really do like all of these different theories. I find them interesting. I'll say that. Maybe not like, but I find them interesting. The theories of like that Native Americans were lost tribes of Israel, and that I guess is part of the appeal of Mormonism is that they take these biblical stories and they're like everything that you've read, but it happened right here at home. Like it's such a cool sort of. It's like when the U.S. takes a good show in the U.K., like The Office, and then they make it even better because it's in America. It's kind of what the Book of Mormon could be, but they had to throw this weird Lamanite Nephite stuff in it, which kind of screwed it up for everybody.
And I'm sure it's the Adinas. Like we know, most likely it's the Adinas that this is talking about, where they're digging it up from a mound, which I can't even, like, you're up to something weird if you're digging up people. Like, but some people were like, no, he just found it, stupid. But no, I don't.
Well, it is absolutely remarkable that he found a freaking skeleton in a mound that was over 1,500 years old, like that. Unless maybe
they were used to the mounds. They had.
Yeah, I guess everyone just like didn't disturb the mounds for over for close to 2,000 years. Everyone's like, no, I'd be a dick to just dig up someone's grandpa in this
digging
mound.
up
Why would
somebody's
I do that?
grandpa. You
and Joseph Smith is like, oh, I don't got any problem with that. And it's like, hey, look at all
I'm
this
making
cool
tea with his bones. What's wrong with that? Yeah. I mean, it's true. Yeah. I mean, when you look at Joseph, okay, even the Cumorah, okay, Hill Cumorah, they're saying that's a mound. And so he was used to these. I think he knew exactly where he was. He's a treasure digger. I mean, he's a rodsman, That's they're used to digging stuff up, looking for things, whether it be graves or not. So.
I bet you if you spent a couple days with Joseph Smith, he'd be finding like 20s on the ground, like little bottle caps, like all kinds of
Oh
like
yeah.
rings that people dropped. He's one of those people that would find like a Rolex at the airport that someone just like lost, right?
He's like, look at this. Want to see
Yeah,
some magic?
look what I found.
Let me get my Jupiter talisman, and then we'll go find some stuff.
I would
Let me
honestly, I
cut
would
it.
love to see what Joseph Smith could do with a modern metal detector and like all the extra fixins, right? I feel like he could probably put
Yeah.
one of those things to use.
Well, he really sucked. You do remember that he got sued for sucking at treasure hunting. So I don't know.
You know what though? Part of me thinks that maybe he found stuff and then he just pocketed it and was like, "Ah, man, we just came up short again. Who knows? Who knows what's
Well,
going on?"
it's a good point. I will give you definitely a point on that one because they were supposed to share, whether they were with the rodsman or not. Everybody that went on these treasure hunts, if they found something, they were all supposed to share. So, I mean, you know.
He seems like the kind of guy, and maybe I'm just making the story up, but I could have sworn there was one account where like he found something but then hid it and then like brought people back to the site where like they were gonna maybe find it and then didn't find it, but like he knew where it was. It's like when you go to the store and you find the last of something and you like stash it in the back
Right.
behind like deodorant or something where like no one's gonna go.
He's like, I knew it was there. Here it is. I got it. I got
I knew
you.
it was there because I'm the one that put it there.
Well, don't forget, his family comes from a magical family. I mean, they're not from New York, they're from Massachusetts. Grandpa's involved in, pointing his finger at Mary Eastie and having her hung. This is witchcraft roots. This is not, just masonry. People do always dial into the masonry because it's the one thing the church will admit now, but they don't like bringing up the witchcraft. So, yeah.
They'll get around to it. It'll probably just take like another 50 or 60 years.
Hundreds, probably.
So there was someone else that was interested in like what the heck happened to these bones. I found an article and it's called A Search for Zelph's Thigh Bone. And this was written by Rian Nelson in 2020. And he's basically talking about how
Nelson is in Nelson the prophet's son, kid?
No.
Something?
Well, maybe.
Oh,
I don't think so. It could be. But he's talking about how Elder Wilford Woodruff, who's one of the contemporaries at this time, that he personally carried the thigh bone to Clay County. So here is one of the last accounts of someone in possession of Zelph's remains, and we never really hear from it again. He even writes, "So where is Zelph's thigh bone today?" So this one guy has actually been studying this for years and trying to figure out exactly where any of this came from. And here's a quote to Wilford Woodruff. "I brought the thigh bone to Missouri. I decided to bury it in the Temple Block in Jackson County, but not having this privilege, I buried it in Clay County, Missouri, near the house owned by Colonel Arthur and occupied by Lyman White." So apparently there's at least one account that somewhere in freaking Missouri in Clay County that maybe we could hunt down where this thigh bone was actually buried.
I told you they'd
Then do
stick it in
dating.
a temple. I told you they'd put it in they probably, here's the thing, they never tell the truth about where they bury anyone. Even Joseph Smith and Hiram, I think they moved them 3 times, if I remember correctly. So, they're not going to tell anybody. They're not. The people that need to know are in the know, and the people that don't need to know don't need to know. So that's what they'll tell you. And I mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it's in a cornerstone or something. So.
And then here's just some old, and again, like I mentioned, that no one cared about this until the 70s. These are all photos from 1979, when 100 years later, magically people care about this again. And this is, I think, the most recent that anyone's actually done a deep dive on these Zelph bones was in the 70s. So maybe
because the church wants it to die. Yeah.
Should we go and uncover the thigh bone of Zelph?
Oh my goodness. Well, we should definitely do a few things like that. I mean, there's lots of history in America. I mean, So much we could do. We could do a whole thing. Yeah, it would be fun. Let alone you should come out and see the Sphinx-headed Joseph out here. I mean, geez. No. Oh boy, the Joseph-headed Sphinx.
And I don't think this is actually Zelph. I think this is just like a graphic. Yeah, but this, I mean, this would basically be the age of Zelph. 1834. And then it says, okay, and this is from, I don't even know what website this is. This is probably somewhat of a, what is this word?
Zarahemla. Zarahemla, yeah.
This is a Mormon thing, I assume, pro-Mormon.
Yeah. More Mormon stuff.
Okay, so this is according to this very pro-Mormon. It says that we now have one of the best archaeological studies ever done in America. And then they mentioned that Zelph's bones, we believe Zelph is one of the best attested facts in the history of the church. For the next 100 years, people from Zion's camp had a profound impact on the church. Brigham Young, John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff, and the rest of the original members of the Quorum of the 12 were members of Zion's camp. Everyone in the camp heard the declaration of Joseph Smith that the bones of Zelph were a manifestation and divine authenticity of Book of Mormon. This is a little bit self-referential. It's a little cyclical, where it's like, we have proof that the Book of Mormon is true because we found these bones, which Joseph Smith then says that the bones validate the Book of Mormon. Like, it just kind of like forms an endless loop.
Even though he never printed anything about it and never said anything like that, and it didn't come out till he died. I feel like it's very self-serving. I don't know. I hate to give Joseph credit. But we've got to, rein it back, because he never, like, if he really had proof like that and he really thought that, don't you think he would have like done something with that while he was alive? Like,
So Flat Earth Bird says he's in Missouri, close to Clay County. So here, let me just spell it out here. It says it was near a house owned by Colonel Arthur and occupied by Lyman White. I don't know who either of these people are, but I bet you if we do a deep dive, we could probably find out where that house was. I'd be surprised if it's still standing after 200 years, but it's possible.
Those bones have been moved. Don't forget, they move stuff all the time. Like, they literally, especially dead people's stuff. Ugh.
We actually have GPS coordinates. So, according to Wayne May, Zelph's thigh bone is on private property near the 3 witness marker here. So here it is. Monument to the 8 witnesses, which is right off of Campbell Drive and South Liberty Parkway. So if anyone's near Clay County and you feel like going digging for bones, it is private property. I assume you probably get shot, but I think it would be worth it.
If you guys find it, we'll bring you on the podcast. Let's go.
It's right outside of Arthur Cemetery, so maybe it's in the cemetery. I guess it's probably
somebody's going to bring us a chicken bone. Just kidding. But no, I bet you they've moved it. There's no way. They definitely moved it.
Well, they probably moved it the second someone posted the freaking GPS coordinates on the internet. They're like, we gotta go get it now.
They probably moved it anyways, because they're constantly digging up dead people. There's not one person that goes to rest that stays at rest. Not the brother, not them, no one. They're constantly digging people up. So let's see. Well, possible.
So yeah, the Nephilim came before the Nephites, I assume.
Well, yeah, Nephites were part of, the main tribes.
Keep us updated if you go digging for Zelph's thigh. Keep us updated.
If you find that, yeah, the church will pay you $1 bajillion for it, and they got the money. So
I don't know. After those salamander letters, they're probably a little bit queasy about randos being like, "Hey, we found this ancient artifact that you've been looking for."
That was so set up. I don't know about the murder part, but the rest of it was definitely set up. Who knows? But yeah, very interesting. Like, with the whole situation. I mean, we have to remember that, Dartmouth, we have to remember the connections to Dartmouth and Dr. Nathan Smith, who they say isn't related, but I'm finding relations on distant cousins from the grandfather. And when we look at him, also he married Joseph's neighbor. Like this is a close, okay, community. He got ran out of Dartmouth for digging up dead bodies. So I'm just saying, I don't think it's outside of the realm of the Smiths to be messing around with dead bodies, is all.
It is interesting that there seems to be a certain like shelf life for like a certain amount of time, that if you've been dead for X amount of time, then it's not as creepy to dig you up. For example, if you've only been dead for 10 years, it's creepy if someone would dig you up. But if you've been dead for 1,000 years, it's not creepy. There's got to be like a certain range where you're like, and it's no longer creepy. Let's go dig them up.
When there's no more flesh on the bone, I would say. But you know, in a lot of magical orders, you don't want your skull with someone else. So just saying that right there.
What do you mean you don't want your skull with someone else?
Well, because they believe that that's like the most important part. So you don't want somebody to have it.
Oh, to
like,
have your skull.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah,
So,
because then they can turn you into like an oracular skull, where now you're basically have to tell fortunes for them.
Well, or you're drinking out of it. Geez Louise. I just think that they knew so much. I think that they knew a lot. Maybe not everyone, but Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, they knew some things. Not Martin Harris. He did not know anything.
What's more powerful, human remains or Nephilim remains? I'd have to say Nephilim remains.
Nephilim for sure. Yeah.
They're probably like glowing with magic, those things.
They're definitely 10 feet tall.
They're probably worth a lot more money too.
But they're also probably all at the Smithsonian, and there was a fire.
Stupid cows keep
Stupid
kicking over
fire.
these candles.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, definitely not.
Where did Christian Rosencreutz come from? I mean, Christian Rosicrucians parallel to Rosicrucianism. Like he is Rosicrucianism. Like that was their patron sort of like fake guy saint, I think, or like the OG Rosicrucian.
Yeah, you know. Wow. Well, I think a lot of this stuff, like I said, they are using it to their advantage. Whether or not, Joseph backtracked on it, that doesn't matter. Obviously, he kept it because somebody else had it later. So, he's just chilling around with somebody's half a body, wherever it was.
Well, one of those, the ex-Mormon Reddit thread, this was someone that had been raised Mormon and then left Mormonism, and then after that found out about this story and that it was just kind of like this binode. And they were basically asking like, hey, does anyone even heard about this weird Zelph thing? So I guess it's only brought up like a couple times growing up. Do you remember them actually teaching this to you?
No, definitely not. This is like, I remember it as a kid, really young, and then it went away. No, definitely been, splattered over. Try to forget that. We don't sing the Zelph hymn very often. I don't ever remember singing the Zelph hymn, and I went to church all the time. So
there was a comic book that I found on Zelph. Let me see if I can find it. I don't think this is the comic. This is like based on the comic. The Book of Mormon in the Heartland, Zelph, coloring and activity book. I think this was like satirical, but I mean it's hard to tell, man. It's really hard to tell when someone's making fun of the Mormons or being honest about it. And there was another like actual action comic book. Here we go. I think and this is why I wasn't sure if it was making fun of them or not, because it has like the word humor in it. And maybe it's like the humor bone. No.
Oh yeah, well, maybe.
So here we've got a map. Here's the map of the Zion Camp Trail and all the different places they went, and it shows you where they basically found Zelph. And then here's where Joseph Smith wrote to Emma a day later in Atlas, and he wrote, "Wandering over the plains of the Nephites, recounting occasionally history of the Book of Mormon, roving over the mounds of the once beloved people of the Lord, picking up their skulls and their bones as a proof of its divine authenticity. So he doesn't mention Zelph, but he talks about, and this doesn't say a skull, this is plural. He says picking up skulls and their bones. So it wasn't just Zelph. Zelph's the only one that they, I guess, wrote about in these two other accounts.
Ooh, well, picking up skulls and bones is interesting. They did mention how large Zelph was. So, did you see that part? He was a large, thick-set man, a warrior and a chief. So
trust us. We don't have the bones, but just trust us.
Just trust us.
And then, okay, here was the other one that I was looking at. So, Heartland Humor, Zelph of Zarahemla, the White Lamanite chieftain, led by Onondaga, warrior, Nephite defender, follower of Christ, and a man of God. I want to understand more because I don't understand how he's a Nephite defender and that he's a righteous warrior, because this is like worshiping someone that was fighting for the Germans in World War II and being like, no, he was a good one, trust me.
Well, I mean, yeah. This whole situation, I'm going to tell you in an easy Mormon terms. I know lots of Ephraims and Nephis. I know lots of Ezekiels and all these names, even Moroni's. I've never met a Zelph child. So there is your trickle down in Mormon culture. Usually Mormons get real funny with the names and then they spell them really crazy on top of it, but that's beside the point. What I'm saying is I've never ever met another Zelph. So I'm just saying.
That's interesting. Yeah, if you do a search for the name Zelph, all you find are Mormon articles. The same thing as if you search for Nephite or Lamanite, you only see it within Mormonism and really never outside of Mormonism.
And not even in the true blue families that came like, okay, we were there. We were at this place with Joseph when we found these bones. None of that happened. And we see tons of Nephis. We see tons of Moroni's. We see all these things all the time. But there are no Zelphs. And
so just to prove you, momcozy.com, which does like baby name ratings. Zelph is number 0 in popularity for both girls and boys. 0 people are being named Zelph according to records.
And remember, now they're pushing it that none of this had anything to do with Native Americans. And don't you know, you silly people, this is a Jungian thought of self, the self. So, which I don't buy one single bit.
It's cute. It's cute wordplay. But you know what? There's enough wordplay in like the conspiracy world that sometimes you gotta let other people have their wordplay stuff. So sure, he was an early Carl Jung, and he was doing past life regression on bones that were 1,500 years old when he discovered them, and then immediately lost
and gathering them up. This doesn't sound like a story.
Yeah, plural. Skulls, plural.
Yeah. I don't think that was a story for his wife. I think that he was telling her what he was doing, like literally. But that's just me.
Do you think as she's reading this, she's just like, "Oh, Joseph, like he does that all the time." Like I know you got skulls in your hand. That's all you ever do.
Well, he did. He had mummies at home, so they were at his mom's house. But I mean, she charged people to come see him and stuff. So that's real.
I mean, honestly, that would be like buried treasure today. You'd probably make way more money on finding Zelph bones than you would finding actual treasure.
I mean, obviously it was working for her for a time, and then we've got all this different magical stuff with it. And I just have a hard time not believing that they didn't harness some energy from this. Like, regardless of what he really thought it was, he's definitely gathering up bones and using them for something. So, necromancy was his flavor.
All right. I find this particular story pretty interesting. I hadn't heard of it. until I was just going through like all of these hard Mormon questions. So maybe we need to go
So
through more of
weird.
these hard Mormon questions because there's a bunch of weird stuff in there. We were talking
Yeah.
earlier, maybe the next episode we'll talk about Mormons and Bigfoot and the curse of Cain. And in my mind, the curse of
Yeah.
Ham and the curse of Cain, you got to talk about both of them. So one
Well,
of my favorite topics.
yeah, Bigfoot, Cain, the Bigfoot, walked with one of the early Mormon settlers and had a whole discussion with him, and he was quite cordial. So we will talk about that soon.
I like it.
Don't
I
you
like
guys worry.
there are some pockets of Bigfoot researchers who are now citing Mormon stories about extra proof in Bigfoot, that Bigfoot sightings have been going on prior to just the 20th century, that they went into the 19th century, early 19th.
These are even journal entries, you guys. Straight up journal
No
entries.
one would lie in a journal entry.
I mean, maybe they were bored. I don't know.
Something tells me that Joseph Smith is not lying to Emma when he says that they're holding skulls in their hands.
I feel like it would be better, right? Like if it was a lie, wouldn't you be like, and then like, but no, it's just like, hey babe, like picking up bones again, blah. It wasn't really exciting. Like the letter you read, it wasn't. So that's my thoughts.
If it were the first and only skull that he had found and picked up, yeah, he would have written it different. But if it was just something like, oh, it must have been a Tuesday.
Yeah. Tuesday, skulls, bones. We got them. It's all good. Put them in the car.
You've been on some pretty big podcasts since the last time that we talked, right? What should people go and listen to those? Did they go well?
Yeah,
where should people find them?
Of course. Yeah, Touching the Afterlife was one I went on. It was more of a personal story, and gets more into like, more my testimony and different things. And that one was really fun. I've got one coming up that isn't quite out yet, so I won't do that one. Did just do a Free the Rabbits like compilation. We did it together on Steiner. That one's really good. So been having fun doing all of those and lots of studying. And just also I started my own solo one. I don't know if you know that, but it's called Lucidity. And any of my information dumps where I have all this like total complete books of information, I just started putting that out there as well. So, but they're rare.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And of course Sam, but it's been a while. I mean,
don't you have solo Unfiltered Rise episodes?
Yeah. Lucidity. I just named it like Lucidity for so they know which ones are solo.
Okay, when you do it completely solo, it's a Lucidity. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I just did one on Abraxas. So
I've done a couple solos, but I've got one called Paranoid Pages, but really the focus is on like a book or a magazine or a thing that I'm reviewing. It's still so awkward after doing this for years. It's so awkward for me to just be by myself and talk and read. I just can't do it.
It is not my favorite. It is not my favorite, but with the slides, because I always do slides, it makes it a bit better. But it's going to be edited clearly, because then you stop and start. It's a little bit harder, but yeah, it is what it is. It's been fun. I can't complain, but I'm always happy to go on guest shows. It's fun. And I always love doing Monthly Mormon Monday or Wacky Whatever Wednesday.
Weekly Wiccan Wednesday.
Oh, that's right. Yes. And I also did, I don't know if I should say the ones that haven't come out. What if they don't come out?
Say them. We'll have a historical record that it was gonna happen.
Okay. Well, let me look really quick. Occult Confessions I just was on. And then there's another one with Abraham. Let me look it up really quick because I don't want to misquote his show name, because that would not be very nice. But it's supposed to come out soon, and hopefully it will. Let me look up the name of that one.
More Mormon discussions, or what are you getting into?
Usually they want to talk to me about that. Overcome Babylon is the one that I was just barely on. So it's not out yet, but it should be out pretty soon. So hopefully it'll be fun. So,
well, hopefully the next time we do a show, you'll have even like two bigger podcasts. Like every time we talk, you'll have just come off of two bigger shows.
You're always on all the shows. I go on, I'm like, there he is again. Geesh, you're popular.
I don't know who wants to listen to me. It still shocks me to this day.
Hey, lots of people.
I
Lots of people.
appreciate it. Well, and if you want to listen to more of me, I do have another series that we took a week break for Under the Docks, but we've got so many more already pre-recorded, already lined up. So every Tuesday, Under the Docks is on my YouTube channel. We watch old conspiracy documentaries. Even though it's Wednesday, you can expect at least once a month. We'll do a monthly Mormon Monday for you guys. And then I've also got Occult Disney on Thursdays. And I think, depending on if Andreas and the CIA Templars allow him to grace us with his presence, we've moved Sing Tank to Sundays at 3 Eastern. So if you want to catch even weirder discussions into like weird schizophrenic angles on movies and pop culture, you can find me in all those places. Anything else before we kick this off?
Just find me everywhere podcasts are served. I have my own Patreon if you want extra episodes. I do a lot of medical drops there, and me and Janet do a show together. Right now we're in accidents, like it's dastardly disasters, but coming up in October we're doing the gruesome, ghastly, and ghoulish, and it's going to be a little bit fun. So if you have a queasy stomach, you might not want to check that one out, but I think they're pretty fun. So 2 nurses together that don't really care about all that. So check us out there. Check me out. Hopefully on Spotify mostly, because YouTube only gets 1 drop. So a week. Yeah. It's just the way it is right now. I don't want to get nuked. Forget it.
What a great combo too. Shout out to Deplorable Janet.
Yes.
Did shows with her like way early on. She's one of the coolest people to talk to.
She is. And she's another nurse. So we just get on there and do like crazy medical mishaps. It's fun.
I wouldn't be able to handle it. I get queasy with like medical stuff. You know what it is that it's not like an empath thing, but if you start describing exactly what's happening, I can't not visualize it and see it in like full 3D. And I don't want to see it, but I can't not see it if you're describing it to me.
My husband is out with the blood. He's like,
Okay,
nope,
good.
no. Yep. He's like, that's okay. Hard pass on that one. He doesn't like it either, but he's come a long way since we've been married. I've had a lot of issues and had to have different, surgeries and a PICC line and blah, blah, blah. And he's come a long way. Shout out to my husband.
I don't even know what a PICC line is, but it's already making me queasy just hearing the word.
IV straight to your heart. I had that baby in for 4 months. Yeah, almost died. So I made it though. I always make it. Unless, they try to make me not make it. And in that case, I didn't do anything to myself and figure it out.
It was the Masons.
It's not the Masons. It's the Mormons.
It was well, same difference.
No, you're different than they are.
Okay.
All right, you guys, check us out. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.